Indy Neidell.
And I'm Spartacus Olsson.
And this is a World War II in real-time public service announcements, or more specifically, World War II in real-time cribs, where myself and Sparty and the rest of us who bring you this fantastic comment over the next couple of weeks are going to make little videos so you get to see who we are, what we do, how we do it, and why we do it.
These little sneak peeks that are going to give you a view into how the TimeGhost magic is created are going to come out on Instagram and Facebook. But we're going to make sure that you know that they come out by using the community page here on the World War II channel. Now, the team that's working on this are really focused on trying to pioneer how the historical documentary can be adapted to the 21st century media landscape, something that we have been doing since we started with this kind of thing in 2014.
First, with the chronological week-by-week format when we did the Great War, exactly 100 years after World War I happened. But then even things like the Cuba crisis day by day, and with the Indonesian War of Independence year by year, still doing chronological documentaries. And that is something new instead of just covering the Eastern Front or the Mesopotamian Front or whatever, or a particular battle, to put it all together chronologically. But there is so much more that we can do still to bring the traditional documentary and the traditional film documentary into the modern and postmodern era.
And I think we learned a lot about that last year when we did one specific project, where we really saw new horizons open up for us. Right, Indy?
Yeah, I guess most of you must know what that is. That's the Pearl Harbor series, the 10-part, half an hour Pearl Harbor in real time, 5 hours, minute-by-minute coverage of the events of the morning of December 7th, well, in Hawaii, December 8th in East Asian time. Yeah.
Not only did we learn a lot about how we can write going towards a minute-by-minute format and how we actually research that and do all of that, which was really kind of revolutionary for us as well. But it also showed us that there's a lot that we can do in order to expand the envelope when it comes to the visual side of doing things. I mean, there's a lot of technological advances going on in the world right now that can benefit documentaries that only a few years ago were not affordable for formats like ours. So we did colorization using artificial intelligence, actually using artificial intelligence to get images colorized automatically. We used CGI from gameplay in order to reenact some of the scenes, and that is surely going to explode in the coming years. So what we want to do now is that we want to take our learnings that we took away from Pearl Harbor and, well, from the whole past year, and implement them into our running program and make sure that that program gets even more colorful, even more understandable and exciting, so that we can really, really, really recreate the past in a more efficient way. And Indy, what do you see in the future when it comes to actual content that we could do that with?
Well, there are already lessons from Pearl Harbor that we have, which maybe nobody but us would really notice in World War II, specifically things with timing and with framing and with the way that we guide the scripts and stuff. But in terms of we also have colorized stuff that we do and now in the regular World War II episodes. And this goes for TimeGhost as well. In terms of doing like more projects like that, we're definitely going to have more things on World War II in real time like that. I don't know exactly what. I mean, Sparty and I were talking about something that would definitely be fun to redo the gameplay like the Battle of Kursk would be really amazing to do that if we could, find a company, one of the tank companies, to do something like that with. But there's stuff even in 1942 now. But there's also stuff we could do on TimeGhost. I mean, we were tossing it around. It's not something that's been decided, but we were tossing around that it is going to be 20 years since 9/11 later this year. And that is certainly a watershed moment in world history, especially in American history. And the idea of the minute-by-minute format of that, I don't want to use the word appealing, but you know what I mean. I mean, it would certainly be an interesting way to tell that in a way that people have. You've seen news stories where they say 9:37 something happened, and then 10:05. But to do it like we did with Pearl Harbor, where you get like the mayhem, it's an interesting thought. It's just something we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, but there's no decision or anything. So don't quote me on that.
But there's a lot to be said for that, because it also goes into something else that we try to implement into all of our programming, and that is to show new aspects. There's a lot of myths and misunderstandings going around about 9/11 that we would love to explore. Not that we necessarily know them ourselves, but we would find out by writing it, just like we do with World War II.
Yeah, I know a heck of a lot more about Pearl Harbor and about American and Japanese politics in 1941 and 1940 than I did 5 months ago.
You know, it was the Duke of Marlborough that apparently said, but I've seen it attributed to several people, if you want to learn something, don't read a book, write a book.
Or write a chronological documentary series. Because, and not meaning to brag, but my knowledge of the First World War, woof, man, woo.
My knowledge about the Cuban Missile Crisis, whew.
Yeah, it's annoying. Hey, you know what I watched just yesterday again for only the second time was the death of Stalin. And it's so nice to see all the guys who, some of them are your friends, even from World War II, but also from the Cuba crisis. To see Mikoyan and of course Molotov and the gang.
Such a funny movie that.
Brilliant movie. Amazing. Emily had never seen it. Emily's my girlfriend. Emily had never seen it before. It was a great movie. Anyhow.
Yes.
So in Cribs, you get to learn a little bit about us. Emily's my girlfriend, and we watched The Death of Stalin together. But in the afternoon, we had played a bunch of pinball. We had been in Nortalia because I had to do a little film job. And Sparty, when he used to play pinball back in the 90s a lot, he was a big fan of the Indiana Jones table. And I'd never played that because it's never been at any places where I played pinball. So I spent the afternoon playing Indiana Jones pinball and then watched The Death of Stalin. Cribs!
That's how it goes. Yeah, I mean, the purpose of this series is, however, not to get to learn more things about me and Indy. There is a lot of stuff that we can still tell you, and we will in the future. Don't worry, I promise. But it really is to get to know the team, because we have a virtual team that is really literally spread across the world. We don't have that many in Asia. We used to have one in Australia, but now it's Europe and North America, and they're working together, and it's quite a lot of people. So we're going to show you the key personnel that puts together the program every week, and they all work their absolute best and most to get 7 days a week off. And then we've been lucky through the corona pandemic, because of it being a virtual organization, it didn't put a big stop into how we produce things. We did have some problems because Indy got sick, but then, we have been able to meet up here in Bavaria and shoot the content and go on doing it.
We're also very, very lucky very lucky when you think about it, that most of what we do involves just one person on camera, and one or two other people can be the actual live crew, which takes more time than more, but it can be done. Because otherwise we would not be physically allowed by the German authorities to be making film like this. I mean, in Bavaria, you still have the curfew from 9 at night to 5 in the morning? Or yeah?
We do.
Can't be driving around, can't be going out. You get a €500 fine if you're out. And when I go down there, I have to immediately, doesn't matter if I have antibodies or a test from 4 hours ago that says, no, you don't have corona. I have to immediately go into quarantine. But since we live and work at the studio, I'm in quarantine anyways. But otherwise, we would not be able to have continued making content. So we're quite lucky that that's how our workflow is.
Yeah, or we would have had to put together a local team. The local team would have had to have multiple tests, and almost guaranteed, considering that the room that I'm sitting in is about the size of a large closet, we would have gotten sick, the ones of us who weren't already struck by corona. So we've been lucky in that way. But nevertheless, and that is something that we also think of when we produce our content, because the fact of the matter is that making things on the level that we do, if that was done for television, it would be very expensive. We're fortunate to have the Reuters archive together with Screen Ocean that enables us to have access to copyright material that we can use to make the shows. Otherwise, we couldn't do things like World War II, because that is within the protected rights time frame still. So that's a big thing. And also, the shifting landscape of the online media world means that today, even with the fairly substantial viewership that we have, it would not be possible to pay the people and enable them to have a living wage that work for this only with advertising. It just wouldn't work. So just to put that into perspective, when we did Pearl Harbor, to do something like that for television, even at that quality, not higher quality, nothing, just at that quality, would be about 50 times as expensive as what we did it for. So we did it for 1/50th, 2% of the cost that it would normally cost to do it for television. But even with those extremely low budgets that we have, we only managed to cover about 10% with advertisement from YouTube. So you might ask yourself, why do we even bother to do this?
Well, we do this. I don't know. I egotistically think that it needs to be done. I didn't realize when starting the Great War, I mean, I hoped it would become big, but I didn't realize, one, that it would become a big deal, that people wanted to see chronological documentaries, that was a successful format, but also specifically how important it was and how many lessons you can draw and how many parallels you can see. Like, sure, it's cliche to say those who cannot remember their history are doomed to repeat it. Yeah, but only because it's true. Some cliches have their basis in fact, and it's the same thing with this. I find it very interesting, but I find a lot of other things interesting, and I don't spend 50 or 60 hours a week doing them. Like pinball, for example. I don't play nearly that much pinball.
You get very tired in your hands if you did that.
Yeah, I would, Sparty. Good point. No, but we do this. I wouldn't call it a labor of love, because particularly with things like the war against humanity and some of the things we talk about, you can't love covering that. But I do call it a labor of importance, and I do think it's a labor of justice, because we are trying to be as neutral as we can about this, to tell the stories as they happen, to not say, and you should learn this from that, and to not say, and these guys were right, and that's why this philosophy is better than that philosophy. To try to avoid that, but just so you see the world as it developed when it developed, and you can draw your own conclusions or draw no conclusions. But I think it's very important, and I think it is doing a service to this generation of humanity.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what Indy said there. I mean, we both, but especially I, get accused of trying to push an agenda or something down, people's throat, but we really don't. It's the events that speak for themselves. If the events make someone look bad, then that's the way it is. It's not because we chose to say, oh, he's bad or they are bad or whatever. The events speak for themselves.
We've been accused of being far right-wing and far left-wing on the same videos. That's not on different subjects. And the same comments. People are, you guys are so hard. You guys are so liberal. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it is. But I mean, I think that's what goes into it being a labor of passion. Because when we started doing this, one really important part of it was that we wanted to achieve specifically that. We wanted to break out of the dogmatic ideological historiography and do something that can serve mankind as a repository of knowledge, not just ours, but the knowledge we accumulate together with our team, together with other historians that we read and whatnot, which looks at it from a bit of a higher position than the position of trying to justify one side or the other. So, you might ask yourself, how can you be part of that effort?
Well, you can join the TimeGhost Army. I know many of you knew that I was going to get to a point at some point in this video where I say you can join the TimeGhost Army, but it is true. The TimeGhost Army is what finances all of our productions. And we have to ask you to join the TimeGhost Army because there would be no productions otherwise. And to continue to do things, I mean, Pearl Harbor was grandiose, and Sparty and I were idiots for doing it. But now we've done it, and we can do another grandiose production like that, knowing the triumphs and tribulations, the things we did right and the things we did wrong in the production and the writing and the editing and the technical stuff. And we want to do those, and that's where you come in. $1 a month is a lot of money. $3 a month is a lot more. You don't realize it's a worldwide thing, and it's. I don't like going on video and saying, I like talking about the TimeGhost Army and thanking them and saying our TimeGhost Army member of the week is Jason the Argonaut. Okay, I like things like that. Those are fun. But I have to do this as well to ask you to join the Army, because that's the only way we continue to make productions and to make bigger and better and more grandiose productions.
Absolutely. And in our Crib series, we are going to open up the lid on the box of the Pearl Harbor documentary process tomorrow. You will then get to see our making of video, and you'll find out about all the things that we spoke about earlier in the video, and it's going to be great. So don't forget to join the TimeGhost Army on patreon.com or timeghost.tv, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.